And this is the 28th of August, 1997, and this is Victoria Ekegren interviewing, and I'm here with Clifford
Woycke.
Woycke.
The O is silent.
From the
W-Y.
134.
W-Y. Yeah. Woycke. Okay.
Okay.
From Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay. Tell me where you're born and what year.
I was born July the 20th, 1922, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Tell me about your parents.
Now what?
Your parents?
My parents? Well, my mother and father was born and raised in Cincinnati, but my grandmother and grandfather came from Germany way back in 1900, thereabouts.
Yeah. How did World War I had an effect on you?
World War I?
Mm-hmm. What kind of effect did that war have on your parents and your growing up?
Well, I have no idea. I wasn't born in World War I.
No, but when your parents, how did it?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea what drugged them on or what they did. I have no idea.
Did your parents speak German? Did they have?
No, my grandmother and grandfather did.
Okay.
And they used to talk German around us kids. I come from a family of 8 sisters and 3 brothers, 12 kids in the family, and my grandmother and grandfather. So they decided to talk German amongst us kids. My mother and father said, no, you don't talk German to the kids. So I picked up some German, but not much.
What did your father do for a living?
My father was a tool and die maker. He made special tools for machinery. American Can Company.
What is the greatest gift you think you have from your father?
Being a son.
What have you learned from him? What are some things?
Well, there were so many of us in the family. I actually, say I learned anything A+ or maybe I couldn't tell you.
What did your mother do for a living?
Homeowner, housewife, family, mother of 12 kids.
How was it during the Depression? What do you remember?
Well, we always had something to eat. It wasn't much, but we always had something to eat. See, it was always 4 or 5 of them working in the family all the time, I mean, 12 of us, and I'm the youngest of the boys and the second, the third youngest of the 12. So before us, there's only 3 sisters and myself left out of 12. My oldest sister is living, she's about 87. And my other sister she's, about 2 years, 4 years, she's about 77. I'm 75. My younger sister is about 72. All 3.5, 4 years apart. Okay.
Tell me about your schooling.
Schooling, well, I had a chance to go. I went to grade school, of course. Had a chance to go to Catholic high school and decided to go to automotive high to learn a trade. So we went 4 years and 2 all summer. We had 1 week off, went back to school again. So my second year of schooling, I took care of the tools and dies and equipment of the school, which I was paid by the Board of Education. So I was working 6 months after my second year before I graduated. And then I graduated from high school. And then I got the job with International Harvester through the school. And then in the latter part of 41, first part of 42, International Harvester decided to have an ordnance battalion. So they wanted about 400 men, 500 men. They got about 900 men. So too many men, so they decided to split. We all went to Camp Perry, Ohio. It'd be up to, I had to go in, I went in July the 12th, 1942. We all had to be up in Camp Perry, Ohio, which is between Toledo and Port Clinton, right up on Lake Erie shoreline. We all had to be up there about July the 15th. So I went into service July the 12th. And July the 13th, I got on a train, and I had another guy from Fort Smith, Ohio. We went to Camp Perry, Ohio. They had summer quarters, so I didn't go home for a month, 2 months, because I shaved my hair off, and I used to have a lot of curly hair at one time. So I was ashamed to go home. They had a bald, I wasn't going to be bald, so I waited about 2 months, my hair grew back again. Then I finally went home for furlough. I think it's 3 or 4 days, some of that. And then we went from Camp Perry to Camp Campbell, or Fort Campbell now it is, Kentucky. And then Kentucky, Tennessee maneuvers. And from after maneuvers, we left a 12th Army equipment. Oh, by the way, the ordnance was a nucleus of the 12th Army. We formed the 12th Army. In fact, International Harvester formed the 12th Army. So after they passed the age of 38 or over, we'd lost about 45% of the men. Everybody was over 38, 39, 40. Our average age is 42. I'm only 19 years old when I went in. So they had all the ratings. They had all the stripes and bars, and I said, we didn't have anything. And then they passed the age of 38 out. So most of them, we'd lost half the battalion. So now we got the ratings, stripes, and so forth.
Where were you when Pearl Harbor came along?
I was over at Sunday afternoon. I was with my wife's, well, my girlfriend at the time, in her house around about 5 o'clock when they announced on the radio that Pearl Harbor was bombed. That was 1941, yeah. December 41, December the 7th, I believe. Yeah, 41. So I figured, well, they're going to get me anyway in the draft, so I might enlist. So I enlisted through the International Harvester Battalion, which we went up to Camp Perry, Ohio, and formed the 12th Army Division.
What did your girlfriend at the time, what did she think about you leaving?
Well, see, she's 5 years younger than I am. So I'm 19, and she's only 14, 15 years old. You know, my sister didn't think too much of that, and my mother didn't think too much of it, but that's what it was. So I came home on furlough before we went overseas. We broke up. Then I was free as a bird. Then I mean, I didn't worry about anything. Okay.
Tell me about life on Camp Campbell.
Well, Camp Campbell. Well, we first moved down there. It was about our division, which is about 12, 14,000. And there wasn't more than 20,000 at the most in the whole camp. I mean, we'd walk out the barracks and flag a cab down and go to Hopkinsville, Kentucky, or Clarksville, Tennessee. We were right in the middle of both states. And in about 3 or 4 months, I ended up about 85,000 soldiers in Fort Campbell. I mean, you couldn't get a cab, bus, nothing until we walked to town. Said, well, we'll go to Clarksville, which is, I think, was 12 miles away. So we walked to town, just for most of the exercise, I guess, because you go to town, everybody was uniformed people. And then we go to Hopkinsville, Kentucky, which is, I think, was 10 miles the other direction. That's all we did.
What kind of living did you have? Can you describe the barracks that you used to live in?
Yeah, at the beginning or in Camp Campbell?
In Camp Campbell.
Camp Campbell, okay. 2 floors building. It housed about, I would say probably about 30 on each floor. And I think we had we had 4 barracks to a company, and then 4 companies to a battalion.
Do you remember people that you used to live next to? Do you remember?
Do what?
Who are your friends at this time? Do you remember any one person in particular who comes to mind when you think?
Well, I got on the. Let's see, we got down in November, December in Tennessee, Kentucky maneuvers, and that following year, I decided to get on the baseball team, so I enlisted. I mean, got playing with the 12th Army, I mean the 134th Ordnance Battalion team, not the division team. Which we won a championship of about 8 or 9 camps around there. We played 3 or 4 games a week. So by being in the baseball, we got rid of all detail. I mean, there was no detail because I was a ball press. I didn't get no KP or guard duty or anything. I found out right away, so I get pretty smart. Well, I had a chance to go to the division team, which is a bigger team, but they could only play 1 game a week. He wasn't allowed to play on any other team, so I decided, well, that wasn't right. So I omit that, and I stayed with the 134th Ordnance Battalion team. And we got a little gold ball, 1943, where we won the championship. Had a steak dinner and a few drinks and what else. There we go.
Tell me about your teammates.
teammates, mostly was international men. As I say, if we'd lost 40%, 45% of the battalion, then we got draftees. But we still had, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 fellows that I bummed around with. We went in the town or PX or the show. Well, mostly we went to show almost every night, somewhere along in the camp. I mean, we walked, 4 or 5 miles the other side of the camp just to go to show for a couple hours.
What position did you play in the team?
Me, I pitched and also played left field.
Could you tell me about a game? Could you tell me what game stands
Well,
out?
yes, okay. One afternoon we played Chicago Cubs. Okay. Exhibition game. And I was the only one that got the only hit of the game. A fellow by the name of Hugh McKay, where he was in his 30s then, and I'm only 20 years old. So he's an old man according to me. I mean, I'm only 20 years old. And that ball, I mean, he threw the ball. He was, out of his prime already, 36, 38 years old. But that ball came in just like a little golf ball. That's how fast it was. So I just stuck my bat out and pooped it over second base, and I'm the one who got the hit. So after the game, he come on, he shook my hand, he said, "You son of a gun." Why? I said, "Well, I just got lucky, I guess." But we practiced every day, so we got out, from 10 o'clock to about 12, we went to practice. Come back, went to chow. About 1:30, practice ball again to about 3 o'clock. Come back to barracks, take a shower, shined all up, and went to town. That was it.
How many games did you play a week?
Oh, we played at least, I think about 3 games a week. Almost every other day. I mean, sometime maybe Saturday, Sunday. Played the same teams. I mean, they came to Camp Campbell, the teams, the vicinity of the area, and then we went there. So I guess we probably played 18, 20 games, maybe 25 games.
How do you think that the baseball and the sports and just overall help build up a team? How do you think?
Well, when I come out of service, get married, of course, and I got in knothole, which is like a little league in another place. We call it knothole. And I and another fellow took the 15, 16 boys. How we get the boys, they had registration of all the kids from 8 years up to 14. And we just picked the name out of the hat, and we got 12, 15, 14 boys. I mean, that's the team we had. So we didn't win a championship to the end of Class A, which was 14 years old, going on 15 when we won the city championship. So we had my one oldest boy, he played all the way. We had about, 6 or 8 boys we kept from 8 years old to 15. A lot of the other boys, I mean, after a year, they figured they couldn't play ball. I mean, some couldn't throw a ball, some couldn't bat or nothing, so they all dropped out. So we kept about 8 boys all the way through, plus the other 7 boys, so we ended up with a pretty good team at the end of the year.
Okay, and Camp Campbell, what are some things you do for basic training for you?
Well, basic training, you did all kinds of things. At least you took a 30-mile hike once a month. I guess 125, 120 a month. And then sometime we got in trucks and drove out 25 miles, and then get out and walk back to camp. But the funny part about it was we were walking, and the infantryman, which always did most of the walking, they'd be in trucks passing us, and we were waving them, hey, we're walking, they're infantry, they're supposed to be doing the walking instead of us. So we kept in pretty good shape, I guess.
What are some other memories you have from Camp Campbell that stand out?
Other than the baseball team, man.
What are some practical jokes that you do?
Jokes?
Uh-huh.
Well, they double sheet you. They did a lot of things. They took your bottom of your sheet and folded it up so you couldn't get the feet down in between the sheets, and put water in your bed and a few other things. Just as jokes.
Who were your officers just at this time?
Oh.
Sergeant.
Well, we had the one time, I mean, I couldn't tell if it was the beginning or towards the end, we had Captain Jones. He was the original Army man. Now, Colonel Paul H. Wood was the colonel of the battalion, which was the harvester man. He came in as a colonel. He stayed with us throughout the whole Europe theater of operation, and then as soon as the war was ended, well, he got a plane and flew back to the States. Well, we come back on ships, you know, and we had all the power and so, yeah. So we didn't do, well, you know, didn't do that much around Camp Campbell. Mostly wrote letters or shoot pool, went to movies, chow, that's about all, yeah. Dance, went to dances quite a few times. I love to dance. It's a lot of dancing.
Tell me about the maneuvers.
Oh, maneuvers. Oh, yeah. Okay. I see. It was in winter time. One particular thing I said that we built a big bonfire along the shore of the Cumberland River, which ran through Kentucky, Tennessee. Big bonfire. Take your clothes off. Run in the ice water. There's snow on the ice on the shoreline. Run in the water. Come back. Get the clothes on, and then go to Nashville or Memphis, Tennessee. I mean, that's so that wasn't too bad.
Tell me about the maneuvers in itself. What
We played war games. What it was, I don't know. I don't remember. We were the Blue Army. They split the division up: Blue Army and the Red Army against each other. They had planes fly over the tanks. They drop little bags of flour, I guess it was, or paste, white stuff. You know, you was out of action for the week. I remember one time, it was three of us. We was out of the farm camp on the road where it was like a V, where the two roads came together, and we was camped right on top of the hill. We were supposed to guard that road, you know. And all we had to eat, the farm people gave us tomatoes. They ate tomatoes. It's come out of my ears. I said, well, today I don't eat tomatoes. I just begrudge tomatoes. I don't care for tomatoes. And no, we just guard that road, and then pack up, went back to camp, shower, and all that. And the following Monday morning, well, you take off in another direction, the whole company. It was all planned, like a planned war, you know.
Tell me about the move down to Abilene. What'd you think of Abilene?
Well, I'll tell you how it was. Okay, got towards the end of maneuvers. He decided we would leave our 12th Army equipment in Kentucky, Tennessee, out in the woods, maneuvers. And about 500 of us went to Camp Chaffee, Arkansas, Fort Smith, Arkansas, which the 14th Army came to the Kentucky, Tennessee maneuvers, took our equipment, we took their equipment. And we took all their equipment, tanks, half tracks, so forth, put it on cargo, flat cars, and they took it down to Abilene, Texas. So we convoy and trucks from Fort Smith to Abilene, 3 days convoy. So we took 3 days from Fort Smith, Arkansas, to the Tennessee, or to Abilene, Texas. And you can see the Abilene, Barkley, Texas. You can see that camp like 20 miles away. It's so flat down there. I mean, you can see the lights, you know. And you rode and you rode and you rode and you rode. Oh, when are we going to get to the camp? Abilene, Texas.
How about the town Abilene? What are your experiences about the town?
Well, not too much because too many GIs there. I had a few dates with a couple of girls back and forth. But we went on the way from Abilene. We went down to, we're going to Dallas, Fort Worth, I guess it was. And particular one weekend on a bus, we get about halfway down and the bus broke down. So they said, well, it'll be another 2 hours, 3 hours before the bus come back from Abilene to pick us up, take us down to Fort Worth. So about 3 or 4 of us decided, you know, we'll walk. So we walked down the road a couple pieces and up over the ridge of the railroad tracks. So we climbed up there and looked down at a little town down there by Ranger, Texas. So we marched it in there, and hell, we were the kingfish. I mean, boy, people come out and offer us this and that and everything else. So we had a wonderful time. So we kept a secret all the time to the rest of us. Where are you going? Oh, we're going to Fort Worth. We went to Ranger, Texas, which I guess is, 23 miles from Abilene, I guess. I didn't look on the map. But we was going to Ranger, Texas all the time. And I almost married a girl from down there. Her father had 3 or 4 oil wells. I was going to about marry her, but she decided better not. So anyway.
How about Camp Barkley? How's Camp Barkley different from Camp Campbell?
Well, Barkley had these little summer cottages like wood alongside and a canvas on top. In the winter time, well, we was right next to the water tower. And the winter months, the water tower overflowed. It was all ice, just all over the water tower and over barracks. We had shipped the ice away from the door to get into barracks. And we had these little gas heaters. And a few of the boys got killed by the heaters went off during the night and fumigated and killed them. So at night, we make sure all the gas heaters was off. We had one end of the barracks, one the other end. And we put our winter coats on and went to bed. Well, I mean, because be cold is, not alive at all.
How about some training that you go through down there? What are some different?
About the same we had in Camel. See, being ordnance, what we did, we had calisthenics every morning. We went up to the shop area, and we worked on tanks, trucks, and I was in charge of the small arms, which is pistols, rifles. I went to school on that, and I was in charge of that for, I guess 6, 8 months maybe. Yeah, we just go up the area and do your little duties. We tore tanks apart, worked on them, see how they went together, and come back and cleaned up and chow, and either go to movies or stay at the day camp or the day area and play golf or shoot pool or what else.
What are your thoughts about the war? What are you thinking about the war when you're in Abilene? Are you realizing that you're soon about to go to Europe, or is it?
Well, at the time when I enlisted through the International Harvester, I had a stack of papers, I guess about 3 or 4 inches thick, from the War Department, where we was going to go. We knew where we was going to be at least 2 years to 3 years to train an armored division. So they even told us right there where we was going to go. Perry, Camel, Chaffee, and overseas. So we knew where we was going before I even enlisted. I knew I had all the papers that they told us where we was going to go.
And at this time, are you still writing to your girlfriend, your wife at this time? Are you still writing to her? Or are you guys broken up already?
Oh, no. I wrote to her when we was overseas, yeah.
Tell me about the train ride up to New York from Abilene.
Well, I don't know. As being on the train, I couldn't sleep on the train. I think it took us 3 days. I dozed off, but I couldn't sleep with no noise. At one time, somewhere along the line, the train stopped, and we were there for an hour, 2 hours. And they said, rumor, I guess, the part of the rail was broken up going across this bridge. The bridge was tore down for some reason. So I don't know if it was sabotage or what it was, but we stayed there 3 or 4 hours before we got moving going up to New York. Got to Camp Kilmore, New Jersey, I think it was. And we want to go to New York City. Fine, so about 4 or 5 of us, we got it passed, we go to New York City. So we go into New York City, and we got drunk, and we didn't know what it was, day and night. So we was on the ferry, I remember this. Every time we wanted to get off, thought we was back where we were supposed to be, we was on the opposite side. So we must have rode across back and forth the Hudson River for, I don't know how many times, to find guys that show, this is where you get off. Okay, then we get off. Then we got back to the area. And I remember getting on the ship by the Empress of Australia, which is an old English luxury liner, beautiful ship. So we get in there, I guess about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, we start boarding the ships. Going down and down and down and down with E-deck, which is 5 decks below sea level. Mm-hmm. So we get down with guns and helmets and bedrolls and packs. And the captain got up on the steps and he said, this is it for the time being. Until everybody's settled, we'll move up to staterooms. So, well, that's all right. So we waited and waited. Finally comes back and says, well, this is it. We don't move. This is where we stay until we hit England. So I was right there by the table where we ate on it. So I took my bedroll, rolled it on the table, and that's where I slept for 14 days. That was my bed. And hammocks, you couldn't get in and out, all day at night. So in the first thing in the morning, I rolled my bedroll up and my barracks bag, duffel bag was there, my helmet, gun, and just laid it down. We ate on that twice a day, had 2 meals a day. Just when it got dark, I rolled my bedroll out, and that was my bed for 14 days.
What kind of food did you eat?
Oh, don't say anything about that. You could smell that limey food. We were just off to the distance from the galley, as they call it, the galley. And you could smell that, but I got sick. Never got sick at all. It never bothered me at all. So anyway, we get out, we pull out of the harbor, we pass the Statue of Liberty, just getting in the light. You just could see it. So, okay, girl, goodbye. So we get out 2 or 3 days. We were zigzagging up and down the Atlantic. Yep. I said, oh, buddy, we're going over by ourselves. So about the 4th, 5th day, the next morning, we woke up and there was ships, boy, 1,000 ships around, all around, airplane, zeppelins, and just hundreds of ships around us. So we felt a little safer now, a little protection. But we drove up and down. I mean, we went, a couple miles up, and then turned back this way, going across, just zigzag back and forth for torpedoes, I guess.
How would you do on them, on the boats?
Well, most of us, we had exercise, but most of them didn't do anything. Just walked around and just see, look the ship over, I mean, we was down 5 decks below sea level, and we was in the dark, all lights, so we had to get some sunshine. So we had mosey up on the upper decks, and with some crowded. I mean,
How about England? What are your impressions about your first?
Well, England, okay. Liverpool, that's where we landed. So we went to the south part of England, and I forget the name of the barracks now. It was an old English army barracks, from Manchester to Straw, and to Bedroll, So, I mean, you didn't do much or anything. You just, checked the equipment out and just stayed there. I mean, then we got on the LST and went across the Channel to Le Havre, France. And the division split up then. I mean, we went to Le Havre and rest them up and down the whole coast. Then we got over there. I would say it must have rained for 3 or 4 days in a row, and mud up the hubcaps over the running boards of the trucks. And we just bogged down. We couldn't get up out of the ships. Couldn't move anything. It was just all mud. So we took the medium, a light tank, and hooked on with a cable with a truck, and then another tank in front of the second tank, and pulled, and then go back and get another one, and just keep pulling the equipment up out of the mud up to the running board. So after, I guess, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, it kind of calmed down. Sun come out, dried up a little bit, but then we start moving towards into France.
How about some encounters with the British people? What do you think about the British people? Did you have?
I couldn't understand them. I couldn't understand the English people. I could understand German people, French more than I could English people. I couldn't understand them English people. Seemed odd, but yeah. So I couldn't understand too much.
Did you have a chance to go into London?
Oh yeah. I was in London. About twice, I guess. We was only there about a month and a half, and Tidworth's barracks, that's the barracks that were Tidworth. I guess it's still there, the old army camp. Yeah, I went into London, and let's see what we tried to do. We tried to do something. So we checked in a hotel, which was all GIs, and one officer was with us, and he couldn't come with us, so because he's an officer, so he took his bars off and stayed with us. So we one of the buddies, I guess you want to call him. So we had a good time in London, drinking scotch most of the time. By about the 5th, I guess, just drink scotch and throw the bottle in, drink another bottle in. So.
Okay, you were in France. How are you feeling when you're this close to the war? Because now you're actually there.
Well, where it is, they have Combat Command A, B, and C. We as a C company, so we're in the Combat C. So every 3 or 4 months, Combat Command C will move up to the front, infantry, tankers, so forth, and be up. The most we was up at, I think it was 12, 14 days, which we was up but not really on the front, because we was in ordnance. We didn't do any fighting. We was in mostly back, but we go up to the front, knocked out tanks and so forth, and bring the equipment back to where we could work on it. And we did the first or second echelon, just minor stuff. Major stuff, we shipped back to the rear, which might have been 10, 15, 20 miles back. So I remember one time we was on a convoy. I was in charge of 14 trucks hauling gasoline, ammunition, fuel, lube. So about every 3 or 4 days, I go in the captain and say, well, where was the gas dump? Because we kept moving forward, so we get gas dumps to keep the equipment moving. So we always make sure we had 1 or 2 tanks in the battalion, 3 tanks maybe, for protection. I mean, we had no protection. I mean, it was, just canvas. Trucks, half trucks, Jeeps and whatnot, and tech trucks, which did all the electrical stuff. So we just scout around to say, well, we go to, I was in charge of 14 trucks, 2 men per truck, plus my driver and myself, and the weapons carrier, of course, he carried K rations, C rations for eat. Well, the last depot was, 10 miles south. So, well, we head that direction. Sometime we get there and there'd be a notice, one of the FPs, somebody would answer, well, they moved, 6 miles east, so we go east. And then they said they moved west, so we go west. So we just go around in a circle, try to find the gas dumps. And in particular, one time we was gone for, we was gone about 7 to 8 days. Meanwhile, the whole battalion is moving up toward the front because the whole battle was going through France and into Germany. And so we got back, we found the gas dump, filled up the tanks, the cans, and what else we got? We got back and everything was running on air. It's about out of gas. I mean, we couldn't move. I mean, they was running hot air. So they was glad to see us. So we dumped off all the cans, parked along the road. We go back and drop off 4 or 6 cans per truck all the way up until we empty the trucks. We have 14, and we turn around, come back, pick all the empties, and then stay for a day or 2 days with the company, and then I go back to the captain and say, well, where's the dump at? Well, near so-and-so. Okay, so we take off. That's what I did most of the time. So I was always mostly gone from all the... But one particular time, I remember somewhere in France, I couldn't tell you where, we was coming into town, and as I was the first vehicle, the weapons carriers and the trucks all behind, all about 5 minutes apart, intervals. We come around this town, here's this big German Tiger tank sitting in the middle of the road. Stop. So I talked to the driver, I forget who he was, I don't remember. And I said, well, but to get out, he said, sitting here and get blown, shot, blown up out of the weapons carriers. So we got up, I had a 45 on my hips, I took that off, and I started walking up towards the tank, with my hands up, and I said, well, I thought somebody was in the tank, Till we found the tank was empty. Thank God, this great big Tiger tank sitting there with a big old guns pointing right at you. I think I aged 20 years that time. I think my curly hair turned gray. I was like, oh, buddy. So then we said, okay, so we're going around and find our way, but that was one small incident. In that instant, we went through the Hagenall Forest. We got there just about dark, just getting dark. I said, well, I think it was 8 or 10 miles through this forest. I mean, we don't know where we're going. I mean, we're heading that direction. We don't know if that battle's over the next hill or what. So I said, well, 5 minutes intervals, you're on your own. So I started, and we went on through, and there we heard some shots, boom, banging back and forth. So as we got through the town, we stopped, and a couple of trucks had their tires shot at, They were shooting at us with loaded gas, one bullet wipes, big ball of fire. But we got lucky, we got through okay.
Were you ever shot at directly? I know that you were...
Well, yes. Oh, yeah. I don't remember the little town. But anyway, we pulled at one little town, getting dark. Just as we was pulling in, as the 2 German airplanes were taking off the other end of town, the little airport. So they turn around and come back towards us and see these little blue lights, machine gun bullets shooting at us. And one guy said, look at blue lights. I said, blue lights? Your tail, that says bullets. So we dove underneath the tank and plane went up and took all the shingles up at the house right there, and then they was gone. I mean, that's the closest we had there. Blue lights, it wasn't blue lights, it was bullets.
What was your task in Herrlesheim? take me.
That was a rough part they had. I mean, I felt sorry for them guys. But as I said, we was always 10, 15 miles apart back, so we didn't.
What were the reports that you received? What kind of news? What did you hear about the battle when you were 10, 15 miles behind?
Oh, I would say hearsay, a lot of hearsay. I mean, we lost, almost half of the division in Hurlesheim. I guess there's quite a few boys got killed at that time and captured. But we didn't. As I said, we was always back. Being ordnance, I mean, you was always in the rear, so, except, as I said, one time we went up to the front with Combat Command C, and we still were 4 or 5 miles away from actually the shooting, which isn't, I mean, 4 or 5 miles seems far, but when you get guns that shoot 20, 30 miles, I mean, you're right up there.
Did you have any encounters with the French or the German people?
Oh, yeah. Not too much. Well, France, about every little town I got a little nosy and picked up a girl, a friend here or there and there. So. And in Germany, yeah, I was about raised. Well, it's later on, years goes by. I mean, the war ended at 45, and it was in a town. I met this German girl. And I don't think I fell in love with her, but so there was about 6 or 8 of us wanted to stay in Germany at this post-ordnance inspection team. So that was about $4,600 a year plus medical, clothing. That was good money then, 46, 45, end of 45. So we was all going to stay, re-enlist and stay for 3 years, and then they told us we had to go back to the States. So I went back to the States after I got discharged. February the 6th and 46, I got discharged. And I was decided to go back in for my 3 years. I wanted to go back to Mannheim, Germany. That's where it was. So then I got down to the post office where the recruiting officer was, and so I signed in, passed the physical, and everything else. And I think it was a major was there at the time. He opened this big book, and he's ready to write my name in the book. I said, what's this book for? He said, oh, well, this is the 5th Corps, which took care of Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. I think 5 states took care of. I said, so what? He said, well, all these names are ahead of you. I said, well, when do I go? 30 days? 60 days? He said, oh, it might be a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years. But you will have to go. So I grabbed the paper and tore it up and said, thank you, and I walked out the door. Went back home. I said, I'm not going. If I can't go in 30, 60 days, I'm not going a year and a half, 2 years down the road.
So after Hurlesheim, what are some other things that goes on? Or some other encounters and battles that you remember that you can tell me about?
Well, as for battles, I mean, as I said, we wasn't in battles, actually.
Some incidents that you remember?
No, not too much. Well, we go up, pull a couple of trucks back, one on advanced attachment, which got shot up. We had to go back and get the trucks and pull them back to repair them. But as for, well, one particular time, you remember we were on the move, and we hauled along the side of the road, and down in the valley, there was the Germans running across the field, and then we were up on the hill, all us guys shooting down at them. We could see I had binoculars I picked up from one of the Germans, and you could see the dirt flying right behind their heels. These Germans running across the field and throwing the stuff off. So we went on down, run down after them, and this one particular German guy, I mean, he threw something off, and I dove for it, and another guy dove for it, and it was a big 20 power field glasses, which I got. So,
well, how do you think the equipment held up, like the tanks, since you actually had?
Oh yeah, we got a Meritorious Award on our little flag, a little reef with gold in and the year on it, with 1 or 2 stars on it. We kept, I say probably 94% of the equipment running at all times. See, most of the rest of the division, they could only do so much, and then they brought it to us, and then we could only do so much. And if we couldn't repair it, so then we sent it back to the rear echelon, which is 3rd and 4th, 5th echelon.
Since you're back in the rear, do you have any encounters with the POWs at all that are sent back?
Well, yeah, before I went overseas, we had some POWs down at Camp Campbell. So I had 6 or 8 men, prisoners of war. So I had a submachine gun. And in the roundabout ways through some of the Germans, they're talking, I hear that, well, let's make a break for it. He won't shoot. So I just said, well, I got the gun. If you guys want to run, take the chance. And I said, I got the gun, so if you want to run, go ahead. But they didn't run.
So you didn't meet anybody in Europe? You didn't have
Oh, yeah, we had the Czechoslovakians. We had 2 or 3 of them in the company. In fact, they wanted to come back to the States with us when we came home. They did KP and a few odds and ends. Yeah, I think it was 3, 4 Czechoslovakians, something like that. And nice guys.
What do you remember about the time when you were with Patton?
Okay, Patton. If you've seen the movie Patton, okay, well, he makes a statement that my men could do that 100 miles in 32 hours. That was the 12th Armored Division. We took all his signals off all the equipment, painted over everything. We were the mystery division. The Germans called us the mystery division. We did the wedge for Patton, to the Rhine River. Just like the wedge.
What do you think about Patton personally? Would you?
Oh, I seen him once, just passing by. I mean, I don't know him. But a fellow from one of the engineers company, I believe his truck is what ran into Patton's wagon. I mean, his staff car and killed him.
What was your opinion about your fast movement through Europe?
What?
What did you think about moving so fast? Did you think that?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, we was just in the wedge, and we was moving. We drove over 100 miles in about 72 hours. Germans on both sides. We went down the middle to the Rhine River.
So what do you remember about crossing the Rhine?
Well, let's see, Rhine River. It's beautiful down. Germany is a beautiful country. I mean, I picked Germany before I picked any place. I like the Rhine River. I mean, it was beautiful. What we seen, But you was always on the move every day or 2 days. We was moving. I mean, you didn't get a chance to stay in one particular place too long. Went to Berlin about 3 or 4 times. We got down in the southern part of France, Colmar, they call it, C-O-L-M-A-R, and we cleaned that pocket up down there, Germans, till we had equipment which belonged to the 2nd French Army. So I was in charge. About 8 of us go take it back to the 2nd French Army outside Berlin. So I went to Berlin 2 or 3 times, I guess. Take the equipment back. We stole from them. Just took it away from them, actually. Oh, in Berlin, I'll tell you a funny thing about Berlin. A lot of American soldiers would sell the equipment to the French Army and tell the MPs that they stole it, and the MPs take it away from them. I mean, they paid them off in money and watches or anything else, and then they report to the MPs that they stole the piece of equipment, so the MPs go around, catch them, take it back away from them. That was one game we spoiled.
Did you take part in any of the liberations of the concentration?
Oh, yeah, I forget, Landsberg, I think it was concentration camp was in Landsberg. Yeah, you could smell that 20 miles away, burnt flesh, so forth. So one of our master tech sergeant, him and Captain Jones at the time, he wrote a nice piece. I got the papers at home, and we all tell all about the fellows that crawling on hands and knees and weighing, 30 or 40 pounds, calling out to the gate, try to, for help. So I didn't go into concentration camp too much. I wasn't there once. Just, drove around through it and see all these bodies and people and,
What was your impression about that scene?
Oh, I mean, what a horrible thing to see. Yeah.
Did it feel real at all to see it, or?
Well, yeah, at first it did, and later on you said, well, it's just, into German or not German, but French, Czechoslovak, what it may be. I mean, it's just a body, because there's just piles of them, there's, stacked, 8, 10, 15 feet high, just bodies and bodies and bodies.
Did you talk to any of the people that were alive? Did you meet?
No, I didn't talk to personally to any prisoners. But this sergeant, I forget his name, he wrote about a 2-page letter in which I got one at home, tell all about the concentration camp. But he went in after 12th Army liberated the Landsberg. I think it was Landsberg they call it, Landsberg concentration camp. I forget how many bodies were there, but there was piles of them.
How about the war is almost ended at this time? When you passed Landsberg, how much more do you have left of the war? Do you fight any back? Did you encounter any more German attacks or?
Well, the division did. Yeah, I mean they fought right across the Rhine River, right on into the rest of Germany. I remember one particular place we was on the move. We got down to Innsbruck, where they had the Olympics, 10 years ago, I think, in Innsbruck. And you could see the Alps off to the distance. So anyway, we had to come down this big mountain from top all the way down to the bottom. It took us 3 days to get down that mountain. I mean, that's how slow we could just inch to snow and ice. And I told the driver, had a 2.5-ton cargo truck, and if it's got a new goal, we'll jump, just let the truck go, So a few guys jumped in this truck going on down the mountainside. I mean, you could see from the top and look down the bottom, the rest of the beginning of the division, like quite a few miles down the mountain as you come down, and it's all ice and you just slide. So we were ready to put that thing in a low, which you could only maybe 2 or 3 miles, and, just about move and stand on the running board. So if it's going to slide, we'll just jump off and let the equipment go down the hill. So we made it.
What do you remember with the war ending? What are your impressions? What did you do the day when the war ended? What do you remember about people's faces?
Oh, but I tell you the truth, I don't even remember when it ended. I have no idea.
Do you remember what you did at all?
I don't know. I guess we had a big party. Imagine we just got drunk, I guess, or something.
What is the first thing you did after?
I remember with Germany, we used to go, after the war ended,
Uh-huh.
it was about 6 of us allowed to go out to hunt. So we get a Bürgermeister, which is the mayor of the town. He'd take us out to these places to hunt. And where we shot, we brought it back to the German people, and they did the cooking for us. And so one particular time where I went out, so he placed us all around this area, and I'm standing along against this great big tree, and I said, better sit down. I got tired, so I had to sit down. Outside, I must have dozed off, so I got my rifle in my hand, and all I heard is, I woke up in this great big, it's a wild boar, but big pig, I called it. I didn't know what the wild boar was. Run by, got out to the open field, then all of a sudden, 6 or 8 of us shooting at it. Excuse me. So we followed this wild boar for miles and miles, blood dripping down. Finally, there he was. It took 4 of us to pick him up, put him in the Jeep, and brought him back to town. They gave it to this German family, and she cooked that meal for us, and the rest they kept. But I didn't know what a wild boar was. All they said was a big pig with a big horn, and it weighed probably 200, 300 pounds. It was a big one. I mean, get you that I don't know what to call it, that horn in front, well, they could kill you.
Did you have enough points to be sent home right away, or?
Well, you needed, I think it was 85 points, I think. I had 82. And rumor was anybody under 85 points could be sent to States for 30 days and go to South Pacific. So I was shaking my boots and I said, oh, God, I got to go to South Pacific. But the war ended, and then I came home.
What did you do after the war? Tell me about getting back together with your old girlfriend.
Oh, I came back. I had a nice, beautiful jacket made over in Germany. This lady made a jacket for me. I got up to Indian Gap, Pennsylvania. So I kept it in the bottom of a barracks bag, and everything else you had to show, bringing it back. And I said, what's in the bag? I said, nothing. Oh, there's something in the bag. I said, it's a jacket. I said, well, let's see the jacket. So I pulled it out and showed it to him. It was a nice-looking jacket. It was a fur collar, like a vest. He said, well, it was made out of GI blankets, what it made out of. I bought the blankets to the PX, so this lady made a jacket to pocket and collar. And the guy said, well, you have to turn that in, the GI issue. I said, it's not a GI issue, it's made in Germany. Anyway, he wanted it, so I just dropped it on the floor and took my foot and stood on and ripped it in two and then threw it up to him and said, here, you can have it now. So that's how I got my jacket. Then I brought a 9mm gun home and a .22 revolver. The little .22 revolver I used to keep in my boot and pants. If I lost my pants over it and I go to town, I always had a .22 revolver for protection. I still get that at home yet. But I missed a big camera, the binoculars. I missed them every once I think about it. Who took what it was, we was in tech trucks checking equipment, getting ready to come home. And we was, as I said, about 8 of us going to re-enlist. So the chief came up with the driver and said, the captain wants to see you, but you're an enlistment. I said, okay. So I always kept binoculars around my neck. By that, I left it lay on the desk or the shelf there, bench. Got in the Jeep, went down into town, seen the captain. He said, well, you had to wait till you get back to the state before you could re-enlist, I was gone 15 minutes, come back, my binoculars had gone, somebody stole it. If I'd have found who it was, I'd have shot him, because you could look 20 miles and through the binoculars, it was size 20, his power, and you could reach out like you were just touching it 20 miles away, right in front of you. It was only like 2 feet away from you. Boy, it was powerful. Every once in a while I think about that, and I said,
Where did you get those binoculars?
Off the German soldiers, on that one stop we had when the Germans down the valley running, and where this guy threw whoever it was, and I dove on it, and another guy dove, and he got on top of me, and I got the binoculars. And everybody wanted to buy them. I could sell them for $200-300. I said, nope. I'm going back to States when somebody else got them. And also wanted a little .25 revolver, Belgian revolver, a little pearl handle job, about 4 or 5 inches long. I wanted one of them the worst way, and I couldn't find one. I brought a lot of German stuff, and we moved in towns, and one fellow got a box of money. He must have been $20 million in the box. I don't know how rich he was. And the prior 33 was all right, but after 1933, I think when Hitler took over, when the money was no good. I got a lot of German money at home too, and flags and knives and what else have you.
What are your impressions of the 12th Armored Regiment Association? What has it meant to you after the war?
Well, I didn't join until 1987 when I retired. But they had it in Cincinnati in 1953, which I didn't know anything about it. So a fellow in the 714 Tank Battalion was one of my customers. I was in automotive sales. So I went out, he's calling him every week. He said, what outfit you with? I said, I was in the 12. He said, so was I. So forth. He was in the Tank Battalion, 714, I was 134. He said, hey, so you belong to the association? I said, what association? He said, 12th Armored Division. I said, no. He said, I'll write and get it for you. So he wrote and got all the information. We went the first one in 87 in Louisville, Kentucky, Fort Knox. Outside Fort Knox, yeah, Louisville. So a lot of these people have been in since 1947. The first one's born, and they started in New York. I think it was 8 or 10 men started the 12th Armored Association, 1947.
Do you have any other stories that I have missed, any parts of the history that I'd like to ask you about? Is there anything more you want to tell me?
No, not particularly, yes. As I said, we had in ordnance, we had mostly in the rear, other than combat A, B, or C, one up with, and then we had still back, we were still, 4 or 5 miles away from actually just shooting. So we wasn't in too much combat.
Michelle?
Is that it?
Did you ever go to college after?
No. I took a course on the GI Bill for 6 months, and then I got married and I gave it up. My little graduation present was crawl around the floor. My oldest boy, he'll be 50 in April. Then we celebrated our 50th anniversary June the 28th. Had about 120 people, I guess it was, there. Now I'm having a surprise party for my wife, which will be 70 in September, next weekend. So I got a group coming together, around 20 or 30 people, I guess. She never had one. She had one for me when I was 40, then I was 50, and then I was 70. So he had 3 parties of me, but I never had any for her, so I decided to have one for her.
You're not going to tell her.
So we have a party for her. Make her feel.
You can't show her the videotape then until next weekend if you brought it to you. And she'll know about it. Okay, I guess that's all. Thank you. so much.
Okay.